Hello, Rob.
How are you?
It looks like the
Oh, go on.
Yeah, I'm good. Looks like the time change has messed you up as well.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, I'm never quite sure if it's day or night at any point nowadays. That's just, but I like that. That makes me feel good. Like it's always a surprise to me as it is to anyone else. So hello everyone on the YouTube, everyone on Twitch. Hello to everyone on the podcast as well. Thanks for joining us. Thank you. Hello to the Heralds of War and Sir Flukes a lot. Sir Flukes a lot and the Heralds of War got a special relationship in the chat. Sir Flukes a lot has donated. I think the largest portion of donations to get the Heralds of War over from Australia to the UK to play Warhammer, and I think they've got a grudge match going on, so they're both in the Twitch chat now, so those two can say hello to each other, maybe kiss or something, I don't really know. Anyway, so today we're obviously looking at the Age of Sigmar stats produced by the wonderful Mr. LLV. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm good. How are you today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing great. Thanks very much. I'm just, like I told you before we came on air, I'm just making sure I just make sure the overlay looks a little bit nicer. I've had help from the wonderful Mr. John Scrivens to make sure we get a little bit more professional all the time. The sound should be good for you guys. You've worked hard to make your sound better, I've heard.
Yeah, I am. I'm not streaming anything. I've turned all technology off in the house. I've gone back to the Stone Age. There's wood logs on the fire. There's no heating on. Let's see how this works.
Oh, perfect. You can use a map to get to work.
Basically, yeah.
Signals in the sky. So if you guys haven't joined us before, you haven't listened to this podcast before, what we do, me and LLV, every single week, or when there's sometimes there aren't events, so we don't. Every week, what we do, I do nothing really. I'm the no talent hack in this part of the equation. But what we do is we turn up. LLV puts all the stats together from all of the Warhammer Age of Sigmar events that have happened since the launch of Age of Sigmar 2. That are competitive match play events, and then we talk about them, we theorize, we meander, and we give you some sort of indication of how you and your army are doing in the world of Age of Sigmar. I think that's right. Are we good with that? That makes sense.
Yeah. We've more recently developed a focus on what we've been calling AOS 2.2. Mm-hmm. So some of the stats will be from the beginning of Age of Sigmar 2, and then, as everybody knows, we've got FAQs happening throughout the year. So what we're concentrating on now is everything post FAQ in December.
Yes, which I think is very good. Especially, I think these next 6 months is going to be a wild time when it comes to event results. There's so many new army books. I mean, we've had 3 already this year. There's a 4th one on pre-order now. Who knows? I mean, we're already into the 3rd month, so there's currently more battle tomes than there are months, right? So yeah, it's going to be a big shake-up, which I'm really looking forward to as well, especially with Khorne. I think that, a lot of people already have Khorne 8 armies and are already doing okay in Age of Sigmar. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they're going to do over the next few months with a new book.
Yeah. There's already been a big shake-up, as we'll see today. The 2 new armies are causing quite a stir. So we'll see if Khorne can cause as much of a stir as the old Fleshier Courts and Skaven have in these last few weeks, or if it will be a bit more of what I'd like to call a slow grow, like Beast of Chaos and maybe Gloomspite Gits might be a slow grow as well.
We really are at that stage where we keep saying, "Oh, hopefully Gloomspite Gits."
Hopefully, yeah, poor Gloomspite Gits.
So hello to everyone in the chat, Tristan Gray, Denise, Hook and Pin, all our mods are in the chat. So Scrivo as well, the gorgeous man. So I'd be careful of the chat today. It's mod heavy and powerful. LV, you sometimes become a cropper against the power of the Honest Wargamer mod team.
Yeah, I think I'm pre-banned, so I'm just not even in chat anymore. I try log on, it just says you're banned.
How do you feel as one of the hosts? Worried?
Yeah, it's really good. I feel like the Tomb Kings must feel. But there you go.
Oh wow! Oh god! Oh, you got a ban coming.
I'm already banned. Doesn't matter.
Hey, Retta Santi. Hey, Mr. Kapowski. Mick Windle. The Gus Busters. See how they're doing. Aaron Wilson, AOS. Scrivo. I don't have to do any work now. It's been some of the load's been taken off the wonderful Scrivo. So let's jump into the numbers. Everyone, have you got your calculators out, your abacuses, some pen and paper? Get ready to do some numberings. So what have we got first up? What we seen on the screen?
First up, we're going to start with the events logged. We've got 2 new events from last week, and that's the Fall of the Old World up in Scotland there, 36-player event. And then we had the SAGT over in sunny Australia, with a 47-player event.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, Scotland getting 36 players. Those guys up there have got a really healthy gaming community, and they're working really hard to really establish themselves as an independent tournament circuit, effectively to England. I mean, they're probably predicting, obviously, our fall into chaos and despair post Brexit. But before then, I think it's really. I'm really proud of the Scottish community. I really want to get up there sometime soon and play some Warhammer up there. They look like they've got some good Warhammer happening. I think Flukesy was up there this weekend. Oh, Velatron's in the chat. Hello, Calculator XL. Rob, come on, get with the program. Do we not use calculators anymore? Is that not a thing? Am I not down with the kids?
People just use phones now, right? It's all on a mobile phone.
Dear
crazy.
God.
It's the future.
Flukesy in the chat did come 17th at Fall of the Old World as well. So 36 players, that's 5 games, and Flesh Eater Courts took it out. Woo-hoo.
Yeah, Flesh Eater Courts. We're going to see that a lot, I think, coming up. As you'll see on the table there, we've got quite a pattern from these last few weeks since the Flesh Eater Courts book released. So if we look at the last 4 events from Sheffield Slaughter, which was the first event Flesh Eater Courts' new book was used, they've finished in the top 3 every week at every event.
Yes, so they have. Jesus, that's actually a really good point. So, yeah, they have Flesh Eater Courts. Well, they went 5-0. They actually went 5-0 in every single event, right? So they've gone 5-0 at Sheffield Slaughter, 5-0 at the GT Heat 1, 5-0 at the Fall of the Old World, and then at the SAGT, did they also go 5-0, or did?
Yeah, they went 5-0. One of their wins was a minor, so they came second total, but they still went 5-0.
What the hell? So Scotland, England, Australia, Flesh Eater Courts are just winning. Like they are just consistently doing a 5-0 result somewhere in the world. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
We don't need to have that long conversation about why. It's just take from us. You got to, if you're out there and you're thinking about going to a tournament, you have to work out how you're going to beat Flesh Eater Courts. And it looks like, based on the results so far, beating them isn't always going to be the easiest. So yeah, Stormcast Eternals coming. Did Stormcast go 5-0 in that event as well, or no, 4-1?
In the Scottish event, they went 4-1, as did Legions of Nagash. The Legions of Nagash was actually a Sacrament army, and from memory, the Stormcast included Ballistas and Ordinators.
Wow. Okay. All right. So that build, that's good. It's nice. That's finally happening after 8 to 9 months. Good. All right. Well, I got to say, and then Legions of Nagash, the boogeyman before Christmas, still up there, but the Death faction have got a big bump with the Flesh Eater Courts. You really do have to work out how you're going to beat Flesh Eater Courts, but I think Stormcast actually come in second is cool as well. They don't tend to podium loads at the minute. So I think that's actually pretty cool, to be honest.
Yeah. So people that want to see all the stuff from Fall of the Old World, I actually pulled the data off of. There is a tournament organizer. It's called Tabletop Tournament Organizer. Mm-hmm. So if you Google that, they have all of the lists and standings on there. And yeah, as you said, our friend Flukesy came 17th with, I think he went 3-2 with Gloomspike Gits, which was a spider heavy build.
Oh, nice! That's good. Creepy and crawly. That's cool. All right, nice. I didn't. Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah, I saw a Spider Fang army playing the other day. Loads of spiders. I think that they do fall down a little bit, but the output is pretty excellent, right? Realistically, I'm a little bit concerned about the Flesh Eater Court's victory as well, just because with this change we've seen to something like Wrathmongers, I'm a little bit. That was a kind of a meta fix that there would be Khorne players and they could have Wrathmongers in their army, and then that would be a nice answer, a bit like shooting is a nice answer to dealing with the witch hags, right? It's just a nice way of dealing with the problem, and then it means that maybe you don't see as many of them because you're like, oh, I might run into the Khorne guys who end up having the Wrathmongers, but now you've got to do some stuff which is a little bit tough.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of conversations about where Khorne will sit in comparison to Flesh Eaters these last since the rules got spoiled last week, and it's not that there aren't answers in the Khorne book. Looking at spoilers, there seems to be some answers, but they're not clean answers. They're not like shooting, and they're not like Wrathmongers, where you know for definite that you're going to take down the Ghoul King on the Terrorgeist. They're what I'd call 50-50s, where yes, it might happen, but you've kind of got to jump through hoops and hope, because if you don't kill it, it's going to kill you.
Yeah,
real good. Right?
Although I did use one at the weekend, and mine was killed by a Bretonnian king. So what?
It's a secret meta.
Anyway, in Australia, what up, fellas? Hope you're doing well. All hail Egg Boy. We've seen Skaven win that event, and was that the fastidiously sexy and wonderful BDE powerhouse of Dan Brewer?
It was Dan, the man Brewer himself. And I've just got to say a big thank you to, hopefully I pronounce their names here, Matthew Weiss and Michael Bevan, Doom and Darkness himself. They gave us all of the stats as the best kind of stats I can get. They basically asked me what I wanted, and they gave me everything. So big thank you to you guys.
Oh, amazing. Can I just say thank you to Mok Takato for subscribing with Twitch Prime as well. That's very nice of you. Okay, yeah, big shout out to you guys. Anyone that helps LOV get the stats, all the love.
Yeah, thank you very much. And shout out to For the Old World as well. They did offer to get me this stuff, but it was already online. So, but thank you for the offer. So, moving on. It was Dan the Man Brewer with what seems to be the standard Skaven build now, I think. It's kind of solidifying from what I've seen from results. Greyseer, Warpseer, 80 clan rats. What was interesting about his build was I think it was 30 clan Scryer acolytes.
Oh, no, yeah, we saw Nick Thompson actually use that over here in the UK at Sheffield Slaughter. So a similar build. So yeah, they're devastating. They will just murder anything, especially with the +1 damage.
And they're probably a decent counter to the Terrorgeist as well. That they can throw those orbs, get in range and throw some orbs at it without engaging it in combat.
They just blitz it. It's a shooting. It's good Skaven shooting, right? And then also Skaven is a natural counter to the Flesh Eater Courts if they are able to get off the Warp Lightning Vortex, which it's almost impossible for them to not get them off based on the maths. It's just crazy. Like the casting value of Skaven is just nuts, right? 3d6, drop the lowest. You can comfortably get +2 to cast. So actually, statistically, you're rolling an 11 every single time. Your opponent has to cast a 12 to stop it. So
yeah, once it's on the board, it's not impossible, but very, very difficult to move. And I think that's the consistent thing with all the Skaven armies that have done well so far. They all have that endless spell. That's like first thing they put on their list, endless spell. Dan also used a soul snare shackles in his list too, to kind of double up with almost a bit not as hardcore, but we saw Darren use kind of similar tricks at the team event you was at.
Yeah, I'm gonna do some list reviews from these events on Patreon. So I'm gonna be doing those after this show. So we'll cover them later.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and then Flesh Eater Court's 5-0 again, but big shout out to Dan making Skaven be up there again. But Skaven also Heat 1, they were up there. So Skaven and Flesh Eater Courts both showing that they're there, and then the mixed order army as well. So that's nice. It's nice,
yeah,
right?
mixed order was Sam Morgan himself, the Twitter famous Smorgan.
Oh wow, Smorgan himself. Oh dear.
Yeah, and it was an interesting army. It was a dragon lord, some dragon princes, and then just a ton of other stuff. Marathi was in there. I think it had a Frostheart Phoenix. So yeah, when you do the list review, that one's a really interesting one. I managed to go 4-1. And then the second place Flesh Eaters was a Blisterkin list.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah, congratulations to all those players. Well done taking out those events. Well done to Flesh Eater Courts doing it. They are showing that they are dominant now. So if you're going to an event soon, work out how you think you can beat them. There are some mechanics you can do if you're intending to charge them, which I'm sure at some point I'll get around to showing people. It's pretty easy. You just charge something near them. But I'll show that at some point. Right, next up, we're now looking.
So we'll take a bit of a deeper look at the SAGT as far as how that panned out as a tournament. As I said, the guys over in Australia gave me some really detailed stats, so I just wanted to do that justice and put it up there for them. So outside of the event, what actually? So we've seen the top 3, but what armies actually performed well? And obviously Skaven are going to be up there because they won it. Flesh Eaters are going to be up there. But as you'll see, there's a cheeky Disciples of Siege build in there as well that went 4-1.
Yes. Okay. So the percentage. So how like their representation there. Skaven were one of the most popular armies, right? Skaven and Flesh Eater Courts were actually both the most popular armies.
Skaven and Flesh Eater Courts were out in numbers. 10% each. So those two brand new books made up basically 21% of this tournament. And some of the usual offenders that we'd see, like Legions of Nagash and Stormcast, which are traditionally in that 10 to 12% range. Legions of Nagash only had 6% of players, so only 3 players out of the 47. And Stormcast only had 2 players out of the 47, which is a huge drop-off for them.
Wow. And also big shout-out to Nighthaunt as well, 4 Nighthaunt players as well. So that's nice to see. Gloomspite with 3 players, that's cool. Beastclaw Raiders, who are you brave Australian souls, working your guts out there. 3 players doing it. And how did they do gaming-wise? That's straight out what I'm interested in. Okay.
3-2-1. One person won 3, one won 2, and one won 1. So they had a decent spread across the bottom tables there, it seems.
Oh dear, bless. I would say that Stormcast, because Veli in the chat is talking about Stormcast, although I'm pretty certain he's a Gits player now. I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, both Flesh Eater Courts and Skaven have got access to just a huge dump of mortal wounds, which really is the kind of bane of both Sylvaneth and Stormcast Eternals. Neither of the two like them, realistically. And unless you're taking a Stormcast list that's fairly shooting heavy, you are getting in the mix in combat, and you don't really want... Skaven can delete Stormcast heroes like they're going out of fashion, right? So it's kind of a nice counter build that they're there.
Yeah, it's kind of... I keep thinking in my head that Stormcaster are good against Flesh Eater Courts with a very specific build, like the shooting build. But then you've got all the mortal wounds out there for the Skaven, which are just going to tear that apart. So yeah, it's kind of I think Stormcaster are in a tricky place right now.
I just think they've got to think outside the box. Just do something different is all. They've got the widest book to do some stuff with, and loads of battalions that people aren't even trying yet. So there's loads of options in that book that no one's even tried, like mass shooting or like there's loads. Anyway, but we'll move on from that. But I can see why people who have already bought a bunch of Sequitors or Evocators, or they've bought the starter box from Soul Wars, are now like, oh, I might move on and do something different. So yeah, and it's nice to see those Skaven armies are just ready to go. Right, it's not been long since the book's been out, and they're just like, I've got them, I'm ready to rock.
Yeah, I think you called it when they first released. You'd said that Skaven are going to be getting better as time goes on, which is what we've seen, and that they're always going to put up a spread of results. As far as someone will always go 5, someone will go 4, someone will go 3, 2, 1, and we saw that at this event as well. We had 5 players, and they all got mixed results at the event. Only one person going 5, one person 4, 3, so on and so forth.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you're right. And actually, it topped out like there was 2 people who only got 2 wins. So, but their win percentage was 64%, along with Flesh Eater Courts. So it was nice.
Yeah.
It was nice that there was that mirror for those 2 new books. That's quite cool.
Games Workshop, yeah, they're rubbing their hands together right now, right? It's like,
yeah,
look at our new books, everyone.
Yeah, that works out really nice. And then also, if you look at the world match win percentage, Skaven are actually performing better than Flesh Eater Courts in the world.
Yeah, what's interesting there is Flesh Eater results right now actually encompass everything from AOS 2, right from the beginning. So their world match win percentage is made up of more numbers. Skaven's actually is made up of just since the book was released, because prior to the Skaven book, their results were coming in under mixed chaos.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah, that makes loads of sense. Okay, all right. So then, Nighthaunt, how did they end up doing? Everyone decided, screw it, I'm taking Nighthaunt. 50%, not bad, with 4-0. That's not too bad. Someone did quite well with them there.
Yeah,
I know
they had a spread.
Yeah, they had a nice mix as well. It is nice. As much as we talk about the power levels of some of the armies, Flesh Eater Courts, as we touched on previously, it is nice to see that there are spreads of them. There are people doing 5-0, but there are people kind of not doing as well, and no criticisms to those people in any way, shape, or form. I mean, someone got 2 wins with Flesh Eater Courts, which
that's their first. Yeah, that's the first for Flesh Eaters since the new book came out. That's the first time somebody has won less than 3 matches.
Yeah, I actually thought that was impossible as a stat. So it's the
Australians, they just keep breaking the stats week after week.
Yeah, but yeah, Maggotkin, how did they do? They did okay. All right, nice, 4-0. So yeah, there's that difficult 4-0 barrier to break. And Disciples of Tzeentch also getting a 4-0 as well. Be really interesting to see if they've followed that kind of Zangor heavy build, or there is a different Disciples of Tzeentch army out there.
Unfortunately not. Michael did fill me in on that. It sounded very much like the UK Masters winning list, but under the Tzeentch allegiance. So yeah, lots of discs, lots of Zangors, and a few spellcasters.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so following the Zangor methodology, right? Which is nice, because you can either play them as Beast of Chaos or Tzeentch. And if Tzeentch do end up getting some endless spells, right, then they probably could be in a really solid spot. But then that would be, again, maybe the 3rd iteration of the Zangor War Scroll that we've seen in a year and a half. But I hope not. Looks like a really fun event, though. And honestly, yeah. I don't mind either Flesh Eater Courts or Skaven doing so well. It's nice seeing the new boys out there kicking it. They pose interesting list writing challenges for people. They are crazy strong. Some arguably easy plays. If you're talking, if you were thinking about like American football as an example, not that I know much of it, so I might make myself look like a twat now, but I'm going to go for it anyway. There's the easy play, and then there's the difficult play, right? I don't know how you would differentiate between those. And both Skaven and Flesh Eater Courts have got some pretty easy plays: Warp Lightning Vortex, and obviously the Ghoul King on Terrorgeist attacking twice. Easy plays, but then they become really obvious plays, right?
Yeah, people are they're gonna have to start putting in counters to start taking these armies down. So we're gonna see some inventions coming along. People thinking outside the box as time goes on, and then we've got all these new books coming out. Right, there might be another 5 books out in the next month, the way things are going. So
yeah, Bone Splitters won 3 games as well. Go Bone Splitters! All right.
Yeah. So. Highlight some sad parts. Slave to Darkness. Guys, like Slaves to Darkness, 10% win ratio.
Run by the Heralds of War himself.
I don't think Clint switched over yet, but Travis was running slaves.
Oh, was it Travis?
Yeah, Clint, I believe, was running one of the Legions of Nagash.
Well,
and I think he might have only got one win also with Legions of Nagash.
Okay,
I'll leave that there, Clint. So
he says it was the Legion of Night, and he's a narrative gamer anyway. So what you got?
Yeah.
What are you bringing it up for?
Playing on hard mode. Yeah, he was playing on hard mode. Travis was also playing on hard mode. He got his one win. The other player with 0 wins. But yeah, Slaves to Darkness, that's kind of on par for the course. World win match percentage of only like 22%. So they're not in a great place right now. And the other person not in a great place right now, the illustrious Kron with his Caradron Overlords, fall from grace. Only 1 win at this event.
Oh, so close. He like Icarus. He flew far too close to the sky in his little boat, and he's popped his balloon, and now he's just a regular old dwarf with a gun. I know his feelings well.
He used to be the Terminator, and I think what happened is he let a little bit of love in that robotic heart of his with the love from a community, and it, just like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator 2, it just ruined him, right? So.
That's a great analogy. Excellent job. Okay. All right. Right, so we move on to the next stat, which is the winner's circle.
Yeah, this is just wrapping up pretty much what we've been covering as far as the last, putting the new two events into what is winning. So the left-hand column, you've got the overall AOS 2 stats, and we've got some movers and shakers in there. And then on the right-hand side, you've got just AOS 2.2. And you can see there's some, quite a different outlay when you look at AOS 2.2 compared to what the whole of AOS 2 has been so far.
I mean, yeah. Obviously, the two really upwardly mobile ones are Skaven and Flesh Eater Courts. They're the conversation piece at the minute, and just womping up their rate. In 2.2, they've ended up just podium them and just going. They're challenging. Flesh Eater Courts are already challenging Legions of Nagash, and then Skaven are just driving up. And even if you look in 2.2. The combined on the left, they're still hammering up the charts, right? Because
Flesh Eater's coming fourth. We're talking. We've had new books come out during AOS 2, and we've never seen these kind of moves, right? We've had Beasts of Chaos come out. We've had Gloomspite, and it's always. We've seen representation of both armies, but it's always taken a while for people to find their feet. But it seems with Flesh Eaters in particular are just storming the charts.
Wow. Yeah, honestly, I mean, it's hard not to have a conversation about those two because they are just in there and they've come out with a bang, right? Before we were kind of searching around for the Gloomspite Gits in updates, and now these guys are just up there just kicking it. Blades of Khorne, if you look at the kind of the combined stats for Age of Sigmar since it came out, already in 5th with how many games that they've won. So with a new book and hopefully and with armies ready to go, they might already start threatening that top spot. I will be interested to see what happens with Stormcast and whether or not they get played more and we see some more podiums, or just because the new book's are out and people want to play them, their popularity kind of wanes off in being played, and then they end up falling down the chart. Really, I can't wait to get to the end of the year and we can do a top 10 factions. That's going to be fun, right?
Yeah, and that's what's nice about people sending us all this information. We can actually have these. We could be sitting here and having the conversation about, well, I think Flesh Eaters are good and I think Skaven are good, but now we can actually have a bit of evidence to inform those conversations, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the pilots are still very important, the people piloting those armies. So a big shout out to all you guys who have affected those worldwide stats. This is probably one of those things to look at if you're interested. The winner's circle, you can find these all on theoldnesswargamer.com. Obviously, this is the 19th of March update, and go and check those out. If you go and check them out, like, you guys are positively, if you go and win a tournament or come second or third, you could positively impact that. And it's probably not long till the Net General's Handbook, like 3 to 4 months, realistically. So not long to pump your army up. So are Daughters of Cain going to be the winner at the end of the year? That's the question, I think.
Yeah, we'll see. Legions of Nagash will only need a couple, because it's sorted by first place as the primary sort factor on this. If Legions of Nagash win 2 more tournaments and Daughters of Cain don't, Legions would actually overtake them. If Flesh Eater wins 6 more tournaments, they could end the year top, oddly enough. So, yeah, it'll be really interesting. And for all you guys out there playing your Slaves to Darkness or Beastclaw Raiders, as Rob said, you go and win or even third place at a tournament, second podium a tournament, and you can get up here. So this is a big shout out to all those dispossessed players. If they still exist, they could get dispossessed on the winners circle. That'd be a good.
So what do they have? They have to get 2 wins at major tournaments in the next 3 to 4 months.
They need to podium a tournament.
Wow. Okay.
In the next 3 to 4 months.
There's the challenge, that's dispossessed players. Get it done. All right. Next up, the AOS 2 overall breakdown.
So we won't spend too much on this because we have also got the AOS 2.2 breakdown, which I think at this point is more relevant for us. The reason being, I kind of explained last week as well, but we have so much data now, close to 12,000 matches, that it takes a lot to kind of affect this table, if that makes sense. But one thing that is affecting it is if we look down in the 5th place there, Flesh Eater Courts, since their new book has come out, has jumped from around mid-table obscurity in this table right to the top. And that they're just putting up solid numbers, and their win percentage just keeps going up every week, and they keep winning 5+ games every week. So they're the only real big mover in this table.
Yeah. It's hard doing this because, we're just talking about what the stats actually end up being, right? So it's like every single table, it's like Flesh Eater Courts. Hey, Hellstorm Dan, hope you're well. But it really is the story of the moment, right? It is, and thank you very much, Denise. God, I love you. It is affecting the conversation in a big way. Oh dear,
that's great. It's affecting everything. Yeah, and if we look back, I think like 2 or 3 months ago, it was similar to Daughters of Cain. Every week it was Daughters of Cain. So
although there was the cheeky Host of Slanesh that I've been enjoying popping up. I'm a little bit sad that they haven't popped up in the update this week, but I'm sure at some point we'll see them. They're out there and they're doing really well. So be aware of those guys as well.
Yeah, exactly. We can
go on.
So go on.
No, especially as I'm taking a Slanesh unit to Adepticon. So, yeah,
nice.
Yeah, I know. So I'm excited about those guys. Anyway, 2.2 breakdown, Flesh Eater Courts, just whomping up there. Also, just interestingly, there's a nice little spread. Legions of Nagash still the most popular army since Christmas has rolled around. Stormcast Eternal still doing really well with 11%. But then it's nice seeing some other armies, Daughters of Cain and Idoneth Deepkin especially, because in the previous 6 months they weren't anywhere near as populous. But they definitely are now, as people are finishing all those eels up, and they are performing really well. So there's something to think about. But what's kind of nice, Flesh Eater Courts and the Idoneth pose the same kind of problem when you are thinking about your armies and how to deal with those armies. So they're normally very combat orientated, and you often can't charge them, or they're going to strike first. So you've got some really healthy kind of mirroring there, so you don't have to overly think about both in separation if you're thinking of building an army list, right?
Yeah. What's interesting is I think one of the best players for Idoneth, James Tinsdale, who won the Heat a couple of weeks ago, he did a nice roundup. He's got a nice army roundup on the Honest Wargamer website of his army, but in that roundup and in conversations he's had, he thinks Flesh Eater Courts are a very hard matchup for Idoneth. So I'd kind of trust his feeling on that, being how good he is with the army. So it will be interesting to see where Idoneth falls now. IDNF can kind of prey on the other armies, but then if they run into Flesh Eater Courts, they might struggle. So it'll be very an interesting place.
And they're already popular. 3.7% of the armies that you're seeing are those. Beast of Chaos 3.2. Gloomspite Gitzo 5% of the population are taken. And Blades of Khorne, look at that. I think you're going to see Blades of Khorne end up being one of the most popular armies by the end of our kind of year review, because they're already at 5.4. The new book, everyone's got a ton of Khornate demons and bloodthirsters. You've got some 40k players out there who've got a bunch of that stuff as well, and they're like, maybe I'll play AOS for a little bit. So you could potentially see those numbers skyrocket realistically, depending on how strong the book is, and depending on how many extra things need to be bought to play some of the more viable builds. I think that's something to look out for realistically.
Yeah, it's always great when you can get multi-functioning armies. Zinch and Nurgle were the same a little bit ago, so it'd be nice to see some 40k players get their Bloodletters and Bloodthirsters out. If Murder Host, for instance, turns out to be any good, it'll be a.
I mean, I'm sat on Scarbrand and 3 Bloodthirsters right now, and I'm like, they've always been rubbish. So, like, if they're even halfway decent, at least it'll be a good laugh, because hitting something with the Bloodthirster is always hilarious. But we'll see where that goes when the book comes out. Right, next up, we've got. Go on.
Yeah, we have even seen those the 3 Bloodthirster builds do well at events consistently. The Council of Blood, I think it's called, the Bloodthirster bombs that they call it.
Yeah.
There was an FAQ, I think, that dialed it a little bit back come AOS 2.2, so we haven't seen it as much. But the new book's certainly going to shake things up, I think.
Yeah, I think so as well, especially the popularity. But again, combat army, we'll end up seeing potentially an anti-magic army. Really looking forward to having that conversation when we see the book and we start to see the armies performing, right? It might be nice doing a roundup as well of the armies. I might make an extra video that is kind of like roundup of armies you may see at some point. But you should just listen back to the other stat shows, and it's an ongoing conversation that we're building these on. So if this is the first time you're listening, go back and give it a listen to some of the others. There's still loads of really helpful hints and tips, I would say, inside those.
Yes.
So AOS 2.1 versus AOS 2.2 comparison.
Yes. So not much has changed at the top this week. Nobody played Phoenix Temple, so Chris Tomlin's consistent 4-1s are still sticking them up there. Daughters of Cain are still top with the highest match win percentage in AOS 2.2 so far. And then comparatively, they're both a little down. But Skaven have now moved up there. And one thing I have to mention is Flesh Eater Courts. Because Flesh Eater had results posted prior to their new book, their AOS 2.2 match win percentage is a little it's not accurate in the sense that if I just put the new book stats in, Flesh Eater Courts would actually be at the top of this table, and they're averaging around a 73% match win right now since their new book.
Okay, wow, that is very high. I like the Phoenix Temple. It's in there. That makes me laugh. Just the one player, although there was an Australian Phoenix Temple as well. Legion of Asgore, how are we doing? We are doing worse. Damn it, Simon Froley.
Yeah. Simon Froley, a couple of weeks ago, I think he only won 2 games out of 5. You were flying so high, and he said no.
Yes, he just ruined it. Although he's playing Mixed Chaos now, so he doesn't really. I'm hoping at Adepticon I can start to bring those stats back, but we'll see. It's going to be it's a tough field, so it's going to be really fun to play. Daughters of Cain, they're doing a little bit worse than they did previously, which everyone's happy with. Everyone's happy with that, I'm sure. But the Skaven, obviously, is from 0 to 60, but ending up at that 6% mark is nice. Wanderers, what the hell?
Yeah, there was a single player. I mean, you've got to take this into context. If you look at the meta percentage of these armies, as you can see, Phoenix Temple at 0.4 and Wanderers at 0.2. I mean, they're still posted results, hence why they're here. But you have to look at that and take that into account that that's only maybe one or two players. Where these results are more relevant, I'd say anything with 1% or over, you can kind of look at that and say, okay, these are pretty solid as far as match win percentages go. Because I mean, 1% of your 4,100 matches in AOS 2.2 and 7,700 matches in AOS 2.1 is still a decent number, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Beast of Chaos though, 17% increase. They've found their stride, haven't they? It really is just like they're just going for it now at this stage. And then,
Yes.
yeah, the Flesh Eater Quartz increase, as you previously touched on. The Hostess and Ash increase as well. Like we've said, they're the kind of the dark darlings out there. And I think that's exactly the right way to describe a Slaneshi army as well, right? The dark darlings.
Yeah,
But
the Dark Darling.
yeah, but they've gone high. Like 60% is 3 wins every tournament basically. That's genuinely really solid.
Yeah, from an army that doesn't have a battle tome, they're probably doing, if we take out the outliers, like your Phoenix Temples and Wanderers, where you don't have much representation, I think Slaanesh are probably the best performing non-battle tome army.
Yeah, I think they are as well. Which I find quite fascinating. I genuinely do. Bone Splitters, an army with an older book, but have seen an increase in popularity. However, that has led to a decrease in their results, realistically, and quite a drastic one, a 12% drop, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, and that will happen with these stats when you have. If you look at someone like Ian Spink, and or even if you look at Phoenix Temple with Chris Tomlin, if you have like these one or two players that are consistently doing well with their army that they've played forever, and then other players kind of jump on board and they've not played it before, you're going to start to see some of those results slide down. So as meta increases for some of these smaller represented armies, then it's quite normal for their match win percentage to go down a little bit.
Yeah, it does also prove as well, if you guys are out there listening, you should make a concerted effort with your faction. And Dadhammer in the chat has said, obviously with his Scourge Privateers, he's stuck with me, and both me and him have stuck, and a bunch of people around the world have been playing an army for a year. And it is really nice when we get to the end of the year wrap up to feel like you're in part responsible for either the performing or the unperforming nature of those armies, especially when they're not particularly popular armies, right? It's nice knowing that, yeah, maybe they're quite underrepresented. Like Wanderers, but you guys have done okay. You guys have done okay when it comes to those stats, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, people wanting to make an impact in the stats, if that's a thing, then you can look at some of these smaller percentage outliers, and anything you do at an event is going to make an impact, whether it's good or bad. At least you can say you've made an impact, right?
Yeah, I think that's a key takeaway from the stats that you guys are always going to be able to utilize realistically. So overall, I mean, the story has got to be Flesh Eater Quartz and Skaven, right? That just is the ongoing story at the minute.
Yeah, and we'll see which one of those two come out on top, or we'll see over the coming weeks when new things coming out. If Khorne releases, and now I don't think that they will be live for Adepticon.
No, they're not. They're not in use at Adepticon anyway.
But I think the other big tournament coming up would be the Just Play tournament in the UK in a couple of weeks.
So it's the same weekend as Adepticon.
Same weekend. But it is live there, so it will be interesting to see if the Blades of Khorne being live in the UK will have much of an effect, like in the Flesh Eater Quartz / Skaven race. Yeah. And Adepticon will basically be status quo as far as armies are concerned.
Yeah, I mean, and the results from Adepticon, it's for final standings. If you guys are out there listening, I mean, it's heavily weighted towards sports scores for kind of who's going to win. But I'm sure we can get the stats for the 5-0s, and how that works.
That's what I always try and portray here is as we said at the beginning, we're always going to look at podiums, and we're always going to show them exactly how the event has logged them. And we saw that a couple of weeks ago at the Games Workshop Heat with Skaven coming second, even though there was a 5-0 Flesh Eater Corpse in third place.
Yes.
We're not going to alter podiums and things based on wins. We're going to show the results as they are, as the event is intended. But then people wanting to look at, well, did they go 5-0, 4-0? You can see that as well. So we try to represent not only the intent of the event, but then if we can get the win-loss as well, then it gives that data to people out there as well.
Good. Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. Algernon, hi there. Do we have the Adepticon on this already? No, they are giving in on the data, so no concept of what armies are being played, and there's quite a few events being run at the weekend, so there's going to be some interesting things. Dad Hammer was saying, although I might cut my year like 1 month short and start a new army that released of the GHB, I think I'd like to read whatever the new story is going to be for that iteration of Age of Sigmar for that year, right? And then kind of pick something that I think fits into the theme for me. But I've really enjoyed the Chaos Dwarves so far. I've still got quite a few months left on them, so I've still got some interesting and exciting builds to go and play. So I'm playing this weekend, and then I'm going to go for some all cow builds to finish off the year. That's right, all cows all the time. Warhammer Weekly Tom, what a wonderful man. You guys should check out Warhammer Weekly if you get the opportunity. Says, I think there's gas in a death rattle heavy army. I think I absolutely agree. I personally think skeletons are better than reapers. You've heard it. Well, I mean, I've said it several times, but I've always thought that's true. So there's loads to play for, and there are loads of armies out there that are viable to win. I think that's a nice takeaway from the stats, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's always going to be the best army, just like there's always going to be the worst army. I think that the fact that we still see, yes, Flesh Eater Corpse a podium basically every week, but you still got a Stormcast army podium in there. You've got a mixed order army podiuming. Last week we had Deepkin winning an event. Week before was Beast of Chaos. So there are still armies that can do well. You just got to use these stats to know where you've got to shore up your matchups. If you want to win an event, know how to beat Flesh Eaters and know how to beat Skaven. That's basically the takeaway that I find with this.
Yeah, Flesh Eaters to me actually is less of a problem than Skaven in my list building, because realistically, if they get the Vortex off, and I almost can't stop them getting the Vortex off. I mean, they could not cast it, and I could maybe unbind it, which is a really poor strategy. And the exception of that, I mean, you can. The other strategy is that you can alpha them. That would be the other trick, because they normally don't have very many drops. They normally have a lot of drops, so you could go before them and try to kill them. So there's some tough strategies there, and some armies can't do an alpha. And you've got to then also definitely kill all of the goddamn wizards.
Yeah, you've got to take down the wizards. Is there? Am I thinking right? Is there an artifact that lets you auto unbind? Not dispel. Like, I know you've got the Stormcast Knight Incanter where you can just say no to when the spell is cast. Which I think everyone should be including if they're playing Stormcast or even Mixed Order at this point. But isn't there an artifact that lets you unbind a endless spell once it's on the table?
So there is one that lets you unbind an endless spell when you're on the table. It's from the Realm of Life. I think it's called the Jade Diadem.
Yes.
But it doesn't give you any pluses to unbind it. But what's nice is you can put it on a character that's not a wizard. So that's quite nice.
Right.
Because then you're not wasting an unbind attempt. It's a nice artifact as well. So if you are an army that's got multiple artifacts, it's something nice to throw in there to at least have the chance to try. But realistically, it's already done its job once it's been cast once, in my opinion. I think anything beyond its initial casting, because it goes off twice in its initial casting, is a bonus. Right. So it's really tough. A question from 2+Tough in the chat is, what is the Vortex doing for FEC specifically? So the Vortex, or the Warp Lightning Vortex, is actually a Skaven spell, and what it does against the Flesh Eater Corpse, not particularly much damage-wise, because they're able to heal back a lot of the damage that they do, that gets done by the spell, although you might kill the Arch Regent. Oh no, mate, he's got 7 wounds, doesn't he? You might kill a couple of the support characters, potentially, depending on when you cast it in the turn. But turning off Fly would be a nice thing that it does.
That's a big one.
And also being able to stop units from running. So just a bit of board control. If you double it up with something like Shackles, you can potentially shut them down, which is nice, and make it so that you can go and claim objectives and limit their movement. That's a nice solid move.
Yeah. And if you want to see that in action, there was the Honest Wargamer coverage of Sheffield Slaughter a couple of weeks ago. And I think it was Tom Maudsley showed like a fantastic use of that spell. He basically shut down his Flesh Eater Corpse opponent with that vortex. Like it made his life very difficult for moving because he couldn't fly, couldn't go over it because it was too big.
And then use another endless spell to
back it up,
to create board control so that you couldn't fly over the endless spell. So actually, really solid play. So being able to control those Flesh Eater Corpses is good. How it works against other armies is it just kills all the characters and just does a ton of mortal wounds into your army. I would say it's a little bit underpointed at the minute. So I'm hoping with General's Handbook that goes up to 300 points. and that's me being conservative. 500 points is what I think. It's like Croak, and Croak is 500 points. And you don't need any support characters. So okay, good. All right. Well, I hope that answered the question anyway. And someone who wasn't aware of what it does, that helps answer that question. Everyone who's been listening, LLV, you're awesome. You got any shout outs you want to make to the people around the world?
Just again, shout out to all the event organizers giving us the data. Guys from SAGT, the guys from the Fall of the Old World up in Scotland. Keep the results coming, guys, because we can't do this without you.
Yeah, we appreciate that from everyone. Thank you to everyone on Patreon and Twitch. Thank you everyone who's joined us today. 2+ Tough, Mr. Warhammer Weekly himself, Dan Hammer CG, Tomb King Tristan, all of our mods in here now. Scrivo, Dad Hammer CG, making sure everyone knows. Knock who's there. Flukesy, you wonderful man. Alkanaut, Sanice. Just thank you to all you guys for being in the chat. I really appreciate you being here. LLV, thank you very much for doing the show with me. You're brilliant.
Debatable, but thank you too, Rob.
One Weekly Tom, I'm looking forward to seeing you next week too. Velatron, thank you for being here. Why/how come I'm not a mod? Velatron, I'm sure we can sort that out. Retastanti, thank you for being here. Sinise, we'll see you guys soon. Don't forget to join us on Thursday for our 40k coverage, because those guys have been smashing face all weekend and they've got many a tale to tell. I'm really looking forward to it. So we'll see you guys soon. And thank you very much.